Hello and welcome to World News Program. I'm your host, Melissa Al-Khamilat, and these are the headlines. Sahrawi President Brahim Ghali accuses the Moroccan regime of extortion and blackmailing against Tunisia after receiving him for the TCAD summit. The UN Security Council hails the role played by Algeria and the other members of the international mediation team led by Algeria. The IAEA inspection of the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has currently been delayed after multiple reports of intense shelling around the region. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz defends his position favoring an increase in energy interconnections in the EU. Sahrawi President Brahim Ghali accused the Moroccan regime of extortion and blackmailing against Tunisia after receiving him for the TCAD summit. The Sahrawi president confirmed that in an interview with an Emirati news website. Usama Ayadi has the details.
Sahrawi President Ibrahim Ghali accused Morocco of blackmailing Tunisia after receiving him and the Sahrawi delegation accompanying him by Tunisian President Kais Saied during the participation of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic in the TCAD 8 summit. In a statement to an Emirati news site, Ghali considered that the African Union has made a clear decision regarding the participation of all member states of the African Union in any partnership in which the Union takes part.
The Sahrawi Republic and the Kingdom of Morocco have participated in many summits, with the personal presence of the King of Morocco, as in the African-European Partnership Summit in Ivory Coast in 2017, as well as their participation in official delegations in similar events in Mozambique and Japan, and Brussels, with the permanent presence of their delegation in various activities of the African Union.
The Sahrawi president stated that the Moroccan position on Tunisia after Kais Saied received the Sahrawi delegation participated in the TCAD 8 summit, in which there is a lot of exaggeration, and the blackmail practice by Rabat against Tunisia is unjustified, adding that 2 years before the return of Morocco to the African Union, African countries clearly settled the file of participation of all member states of the African Union at the Johannesburg summit, and they considered this a right related to membership, which is not negotiable. The Sahrawi president did not rule out the existence of suspicious targets and subversive foreign agendas targeting peace and stability in the entire region, which prompted Morocco to withdraw its ambassador from Tunisia and try to create this problem. These statements come in the light of the failure of the Moroccan regime in the past period to adopt the boycott policy and the vacant chair to now return to those practices after the policy of participation fell as an attempt to change the positions of countries and impose an expansionist vision of the African continent.
Sahrawi ambassador to South Africa, Mohammed Yaslam Baysat, spoke earlier to Al24 News and said that South Africans are very determined to put into action their expertise to support the Sahrawi people for the accomplishment of the sovereignty of Sahrawi Republic on the totality of its national territory and expressed gratitude for the South African efforts. This comes after the South African capital Pretoria witnessed Monday the establishment of the South African Solidarity Movement to defend the Sahrawi cause, and introduce this just struggle of the Sahrawi people for independence and freedom in the presence of political and party figures and members of parliament and ambassadors from members of the diplomatic corps accredited to Pretoria.
Yesterday in Pretoria, the capital of South Africa, a big crowd of activists, political activists and civil society and retired politicians, active politicians, many people who belong to different backgrounds, gathered to constitute the South African Solidarity Movement with the Sahrawi people. It was very important because they have adopted a plan of action for the coming year, and they have elected a steering committee that will lead their work. It seems that the South Africans are very determined to put to action their expertise and their long experience gathered during the struggle against apartheid, to put that expertise in the struggle for the Sahrawi people, for the accomplishment of the sovereignty of Sahrawi Republic on the totality of its national territory. The Sahrawi ambassador there, we came, we gave them a speech, we expressed to them gratitude on behalf of the Sahrawi people and the Sahrawi government.
The UN Security Council hailed the role played by Algeria and the other members of the international mediation team led by Algeria in helping the Malian parties to implement the agreement of peace and reconciliation in Mali. Zahra Ferjani has the report.
In its latest unanimously approved resolution of the situation in Mali, the UN Security Council commended the essential role played by Algeria in assisting the Malian parties in implementing peace and reconciliation agreement in the country. The Security Council also affirmed the need to increase the commitment of members of the international mediation team to the implementation of the agreement, recalling its close follow-up, and it would take measures against anyone who obstructs the obligations to achieve the implementation's goals emanating from the Algiers initiative. This is considered as a positive point added to Algeria's diplomatic and political course, as the Algerian path in the Sahel region should prevail. The UN Security Council was led by the Western powers, namely France, Britain and the USA. Thus, all the decisions taken in terms of the African coast were of an external vision. The decision for the United Nations Mission for Peace and Security and France's intervention militarily in the Sahel and in Mali diminished the repeated Algerian initiatives and agreements between the Malian parties. The Western powers, on the other side, were overwhelming the military interventions in the name of the United Nations. However, this time the Security Council found the Algerian initiative an important and a promising one. What reinforced this was that Algeria's allies support the Algerian vision in the region, such as Russia, China, and other countries and non-permanent members of the Security Council. This proves that Algeria's foreign policy, built on a realistic and logical approach, is based on a real diplomacy that respects international balance, peace and security, and is oriented toward political and peaceful solutions in all regional issues.
For further analysis, Mr. Abdenour Toumi, journalist and Maghreb studies expert at Orsan, joins us today. Thank you for being with us.
No, thank you for having me.
Dr. Toumi, there is an international support to Algeria's agreement, which affirms a will to resolve the Malian crisis. What is your analysis about this?
It is indeed. I mean, Algeria has been playing a major role in the stability of Mali. Because for many reasons, and this is its historical, and Algeria has also historic, background on doing that. But the latest event, and so especially in a decade or so, and after the incident of the 2012 of Gao incident, that after the kidnapping of the Algerian diplomats, and also the hostage taking that took place in Naminas in 2013 at the gas exploitation site. These two marks have pushed Algeria to review its strategic national security imperatives that indeed is concerned about. And in the aftermath of the 2015 in the Algiers agreement that goes with the peace process in Mali, this process has been making a lot of progress, which to some extent disturb a little bit the Western powers and notably France. And this is why France didn't play or wasn't like an honest broker on this issue in Mali, and especially after its first military operation in 2013, the Serval one, and then started in 2014 the Berkane, which led to a debacle that pushed the French authorities to withdraw its military forces.
Talking about this, Dr. Toumi, this international support comes with the withdrawal of the foreign forces from Mali, especially French Barkhane's forces. Will this allow a Mali internal solution to the crisis?
On the principle, yes, I mean, it has to be a Malian domestic issue, but unfortunately, the Malian political parties and elite were in this area and were not that able to get their, let's say, to fix their house together. So they needed, or they still need, help from a major pivotal state, and in this sense is Algeria, because again, Algeria, I mean, not only goes from its like a brotherly neighborhood approach, but also its national security is endangered. So therefore, why Algeria is playing this role? Because it knows well the role and the danger of this supranational jihadist movement are a serious threat to not only to Algeria, but to the entire region and the entire African Sahel region. And Algeria knows well that it can be a major, let's say, a trustworthy broker with the Malians, and Algeria has that long-term strategy on this issue knows well. If they can do or fix this in Mali, it extends to other neighboring countries and the entire African Sahel countries, and will bring peace and stability on the end. And this is why the international community, and notably the superpower, are looking at Algeria as a serious stabilizing force in the region in terms of peace and security in the region.
Journalist and Maghreb Studies expert at Orsam, Dr. Abdel Toumi, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
The Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, informed the Security Council of his desire to appoint the Senegalese Abdallah Batiri as the UN envoy to Libya. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Government of National Unity had earlier refused to appoint Batiri as a UN envoy for not consulting with Libya about this assignment. The United Nations Support Mission in Libya stressed the importance of dialogue in resolving differences and avoiding any actions or statements that might undermine the calm, and called on all parties to focus on taking the necessary measures to prevent further violence. In a statement, the mission commended the mediation and conflict prevention efforts made by the community leaders. The Joint Military Committee and the Chief of the General Staff in Tripoli, stressing that the political blockage in Libya can only be resolved through comprehensive and national elections. For now, we will cross to Tobruk to Faris Labidi, a researcher and local development expert in Libya. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity.
Sir, Antonio Guterres informed the UNSC to suggest the Senegalese Abdallah Batili as a UN envoy while waiting for the response tomorrow. What do you expect the decision of the UNSC is going to be?
Yeah. As you know, the situation nowadays in Libya is more complicated after what happened in Tripoli last week. About 32 people killed during clashes between militias in Tripoli. And I think to bring a candidate from Africa as a special envoy to Libya, I think it's going to be, I know the situation is more complicated, but maybe he's from Africa, and actually he's getting support from Russia and China. Maybe that's going to add a value to the negotiation in Libya between parties in Libya. But as we know, we can go through the last 7 special envoys to Libya, and I think they didn't add a huge value to the solution to Libya. But there is a statement from 68 members from High Council of State yesterday. They were talking about a proposal to have a parliamentary election by the end of the year. In my point, if that's going to happen, maybe it's going to reduce the issue in Libya politically, but there are media leaks from Cairo, Egypt. There is a meeting between the head of High Council of State and the head of HOR, Libyan Parliament. They were talking about another government, third government. And in my viewpoint, that option, if you're going to go with that option, is going to be more complicated in Libya. Yeah.
Right. On the Libyan level, the government of national unity presided by Abdelhamid Dbeiba objects the Senegalese diplomat. Why so, in your opinion?
Say it again, please. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I said,
say it again?
On the Libyan level, the government of national unity presided by Abdelhamid Dbeiba objects this Senegalese diplomat. Why so, in your opinion?
In my viewpoint, the government of Abdelhamid Dbeiba is over since 9 months ago, legitimately. So I think Mr. Abdelhamid Dbeiba is trying to be part of this negotiation, and what happened last week in Tripoli, it was like explanation about how it is complicated that he cannot be at the power.
Faris Salabidi, researcher and local development expert in Libya, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
The Zionist army has killed 2 Palestinian men during 2 separate raids in the occupied West Bank. The men were identified as Samir Khalid from Al Ain refugee camp in Nablus and Yazan Afanna in al-Sharayit, a neighborhood in the south of Ramallah and Al-Bayra. This comes amidst a number of raids that winded the Palestinian West Bank as further violence and apartheid against unarmed Palestinians. The Palestinian Prisoners Club announced Wednesday that 1,000 security prisoners will go on a hunger strike in protest of what they say are measures the Zionist prison service is preparing to take against them. Meanwhile, Palestinian prisoner Khalil Awawdai, who appeared frail and bony in video, ended a hunger strike lasting over 160 days on Wednesday after Zionists agreed to his release in October. Awawdai's release was recently pushed for as part of a ceasefire agreement to put an end to 3 days of fighting between Zionists and the militant Islamic Jihad group that claimed 49 lives in Gaza. According to Iraqi officials, overnight clashes among rival Shiite fighters left 4 people dead in the southern Iraqi city of Basra. 2 of those killed were Sadr's followers. These violent clashes were the latest to hit the country in years amid the political crisis in the country. The International Atomic Energy Agency's mission is set to inspect the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant today, but there have been multiple reports of intense shelling around Inindahar, where the plant is located, and the visit has currently been delayed. The country's state nuclear power company said the plant's 5th reactor has been shut down as a result of the shelling.
We are moving. We are aware of the current situation. There has been increased military activity, including this morning, until very recently, a few minutes ago. I have been briefed by the Ukrainian regional military commander here about that and the inherent risks, but weighing pros and cons, and having come so far, we are not stopping. I am going to consider the possibility of establishing a continued presence of the IAEA at the plant, which we believe it's indispensable to stabilize the situation and to get regular, reliable, impartial, neutral updates of what the situation is there.
In our special coverage today, we hosted Claudio Celani, an editor of Strategic Alert Service from Germany, who provided us with the details of the situation in Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Let's listen.
But in fact, the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia is not being shelled. What's being shelled is something else which is close to the nuclear power station. This is the first point which I think people should be aware of, which is a little bit hidden by propaganda on mostly on Western side. Aerial pictures show that the target has been a building nearby the nuclear power stations, maybe 100 or 200 meters away. So that's where the column of smoke went up, and this was used by the media. Of course, it's always good to have a piece of propaganda to provoke hysteria and blame it on Putin, who is would be so crazy. And think about it: would be the Russian militaries who are in the nuclear power plant so crazy to bomb the place where they are and provoke a nuclear radiation case where they are? The second question: I spoke to some experts of nuclear power stations as technique, and they told me that to provoke a leak, a radiation leak from this nuclear power station would be extremely difficult. Even if one of the reactors will be bombed, these are not Chernobyl-like reactors. These are modern plants.
The attempts by Ukraine to launch a counteroffensive in the country's south had failed, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, with their forces suffering significant losses in both equipment and personnel. Russia's Defense Ministry reported that during 2 days of fighting near the Mykolaiv-Kryvyi front line and in other parts of the southern Ukraine, its forces shot down 3 Ukrainian helicopters and that Ukraine lost 4 fighter jets.
An attempt by Zelensky regime to resume their offensive in Mykolaiv and other areas has failed. During unsuccessful attacks on the settlements of Olhin and Chernovy Pudi, the enemy sustained heavy losses and was repelled by Russian troops.
During a meeting with the Spanish Prime Minister, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz defended his position, favoring an increase in energy interconnections in the EU, particularly the MidCat pipeline project. This comes as Europe is trying to find alternatives to the Russian gas suppliers. Nabil Khazini has the details.
The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz reiterated on Tuesday his strong support for a gas pipeline through the Pyrenees in order to improve the interconnections of the gas network in Europe against the backdrop of the ongoing energy crisis.
But it will also be about making use of the opportunities that exist in Europe. Spain and Portugal will be countries that can produce a surplus, and it would be important for these countries, but also for all of us, that these production capacities can actually be used. We're learning in the current crisis that one thing always helps: if we link, connect, network with each other as much as possible.
The gas pipeline project is called the MidCat and would connect southern France and northeastern Spain. The pipeline would allow the transportation of the surplus of the Algerian gas coming to Spain to Central Europe via France. Algeria is one of the most important supplier of gas to Spain. The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, whose decisions concerning Western Sahara was based on weak foundations, showed a step back during his meeting with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and expressed his willingness to visit Algeria. Launched in 2013, the MidCat project was abandoned in 2019 by Paris and Madrid due to its environmental impact and low economic interest. However, the war in Ukraine and Russian threats to stop gas supplies to the EU have put the project back on the table. Now, France says it is open to reviving the gas pipeline project that could link Spain and Germany.
The European Union's foreign ministers have decided to hold a visa ease agreement with Russia. However, the EU is currently too divided to agree on a blanket ban, and it is also unclear what unilateral steps Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland and Finland, which share land borders with Russia, could take to impede access for Russian tourists.
Let me try to summarize in concrete terms what we politically agreed on. First, full suspension of the European Union-Russia visa facilitation agreement. Full suspension. Until now, it was partially suspended for special collectives, groups of people, officials and entrepreneurs, and now it's fully suspended.
Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian held talks in Moscow with top Russian officials, including his counterpart Sergei Lavrov. The talks included issues such as the unconditional revival of the 2015 nuclear deal.
Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian met with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on Wednesday. The visit has taken place on the invitation of the Russian Foreign Minister. Both sides underlined the necessity of strengthening bilateral relations to expand common interests in various fields, including energy, trade, transportation projects, and tourism. On regional and international issues, both ministers discussed the ongoing negotiations around the Iran nuclear deal. Amir Abdullahian said his country wants stronger safeguards to be included in the EU's proposal to save the historic 2015 nuclear deal between Tehran and the world powers.
Recently, we received the latest draft of the American side. My colleagues are closely inspecting the text. We still need more powerful language when it comes to the issue of guarantees. Therefore, we are thinking of ways to achieve a powerful text about guarantees and get stronger, more noteworthy guarantees.
The Russian foreign minister also noted that Russia supports Iran's membership in the Eurasian Economic Union, just as it supported Iran's full membership in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
We're closely following the process of Iran's accession to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a full member. The fundamental decisions have been made on this matter, and in Samarkand next month, at the SCO summit, a memorandum of obligations of Iran will be signed in accordance with the decisions of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This will become a practical and very important step of full membership of the organization. We spoke in detail about the aspects related to the joint comprehensive plan of action to resolve the situation around the Iranian nuclear program. The minister expressed gratitude for our firm and uncontroversial position, for our consistent efforts aimed at the speedy resumption of the full-blooded function of this nuclear deal.
Despite all talk about vastly expanding economic ties, Russia and Iran remain rivals in the oil market, and their cooperation is more significant in political and military domains.
Well, that's it for today's World News. For more news stories, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.